So I'm very excited about this presentation from Mursion. We are joined by Anna Strasshofer and Paul Egan with Mursion. A little bit about Anna and Paul before we jump right into it. Anna is the director at Immersion and is responsible for creating more conversations around applications for VR simulations for emotional intelligence training, finding new innovative learning programs and technology. She is passionate about empowering the workforce and frontline employees in order to elevate service excellence and improve business outcomes. And about Paul, Paul is a learning partner at Mursion and is responsible for finding innovative new ways to share immersion with leaders who are at the front of the adoption curve. He is passionate about creating workplaces where leaders are champions of empathy, inclusion, and service. A lot of key words there that we've been hearing throughout the day: emotional intelligence, empathy, and inclusion. So I'm really excited to have Anna and Paul join us. And with that, I'm going to hand the mic over to both of you.
Thank you so much, Charlene, and it is a pleasure to be here. I'm going to pull up the good old slide deck to get us started. So, we're here today again. I'm joined by Paul, and my name's Anna from Immersion. We are an immersive learning platform for building critical skills around communication, empathy, emotional intelligence, and we can't wait to share some of the findings that we have today and go ahead and get into some recent studies and reports that we have shared, as well as you all to get to the chance to see an immersive simulation and see how it's been applied and some concrete impact that immersive simulations have made, and understand more and more about why organizations are turning to tools like virtual reality for more realistic and personalized learning in the area of soft skills. Now, we don't just call it soft skills here at Immersion, and I welcome you all to share how you refer to soft skills. We here like to say a lot of human skills or people skills or core skills, because we realize that they're so much more critical and transferable and durable and mean so much more than just referring to them as soft skills. So as we all have seen through, some of the biggest reports and analysts out there, is why this focus on soft skills. And frankly, we are living in an era of constant change, and our soft skills, which are the most transferable and durable, are going to be more critical now than ever. And companies and employees are still reeling the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, safety concerns, market disruptions, even layoffs and furloughs, and uncertainty and stakes are high. And just to reiterate on how that is the impression on what's happening in our work and what's in our life, and they are so much becoming one and the same. Work is home and home is work. And the soft skills don't even just transfer from job to job, but from your work life to your home life as well. And so where virtual reality comes into play is something I want to share a little bit of a background story. Here we have is a virtual reality expert. I refer to him as the godfather of VR. His name's Jeremy Bailenson, and from Stanford University's Virtual Human Interaction Lab, and did a superhero study where he found that heroic behavior in a virtual environment, in the case giving people and empowering them the ability to fly in a virtual environment, actually does transfer to altruistic behavior in the real world. Not the ability to fly, but the ability of being a superhero and be able to help people in need. And so when they had found that those that were in the study that were pretending to be a superhero in a virtual environment actually resulted in statistically significant more empathetic behaviors following the exercise. And simulations and VR can replicate the qualities of a very real experience, and in a way that's safe enough for a learner to make mistakes and learn from them, but also dangerous enough to recreate the stress of that encounter so the learner is inoculated for it and emerges from simulations prepared to handle those some of the most difficult conversations or situations that may happen in real life. We have also done our own studies here at Mursion and just conducted a report last winter with about 300 L&D leaders, where we were really asking about what is the best way to develop these soft skills, which ones are the most important and valued by organizations, especially in today's remote working environment, and also set out to understand how they're being developed and what are the best approaches for training, especially now when in-person learning opportunities have all but disappeared, but we still have the role as learning and development leaders to deliver very high impact, high engaging training. And that is more important for soft skills than other technical skills. So I'm going to hand it off to Paul.
So let's dive into some of the insights that we saw in our study. One of the numbers that really stands out is that by 2022, more than 72% of our respondents will have tried VR for soft skills. 35% have already used it. Around 37% are planning to use it the next 2 years. But what's interesting is we expect this number to actually grow, and mainly because the pandemic has forced a lot of people in learning and development to sort of speed up the adoption curve, to sort of be forced into new technologies. And then so in the next slide, what we're looking at is that we want you to zero on that 73%. 73% think they require years of real life experience in order to develop these soft skills. So how do we rectify that? We could hire people with that experience, but we're living in a world with a 5-generational workforce, and companies are feeling the pressure to disrupt, innovate, be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. What we have found is that a high quality VR experience can be the closest approximation of a real life experience. And so a study we conducted actually got down to the dosage where you can transform an early stage entrant into the workforce by giving them a highly concentrated dose of specific and highly targeted skills. And in as few as, say, 4 simulations, we can see our really beginning learners start to show mastery over a subject. When asked what is considered to be the most effective form of soft skills training, the survey revealed really a divide. And we have on one hand, we have immersive real-world methods that scored highly, and we have lower rated methods as well. When we're looking at these high real-world methods, we're looking at role-playing, we're looking at coaching, we're looking at live virtual training. On the other side, we're looking at methods like what we would traditionally call micro-learning, where maybe you don't have to focus as hard, but you're able to sort of get really great insight or tools or trainings in order to apply to the sort of what we have demarcated in orange. We're about to go into a demo, and I want you to look out for the orange. You're going to see things like you're going to see role play, you're going to see coaching, and all of this is in a virtual world. But that's not to say that we don't need our lower rated methods. When we're going into a demo and we're going into this VR world, we're going to look for the skills that you might have gained from reading a book, but you're going to show mastery once you've sort of gone into a virtual world. So what is Immersion? Our approach is using virtual avatars instead of video, and we have a reason for that. Immersive technology can live in a headset, but what we have found is that most of our learners and most of the people that we work with are really at the 2D interface. They really excel, and or it's really hard, and especially in the pandemic, nobody wants to be using a communal VR headset. So we like to focus on 2D in order to scale really quickly and easily to an entire organization. But when we're in 2D, as long as we can retain sort of the key characteristics that we were looking at earlier, being real world, not passive, but an active, includes a coaching element, we can make sure that the wrong behaviors are being that we can make sure that wrong behaviors aren't being reinforced. And we can make sure that the right behaviors are sort of being practiced, and you have sort of the free, safe space in order to learn those behaviors. So how do we keep that experience highly immersive on a laptop and make sure learners aren't multitasking when going through the motions? And what we use are sim specialists, or we like to say human in the loop simulations. So on one end, and what you're going to experience today in our demo is on one end, we have a simulation specialist who is a real live trained actor who is using their skills and improv, but being able to use the Immersion platform or technology in order to provide a scalable, safe, consistent experience for learners. The beauty of having the human in the loop is, as Brene Brown once said, empathy has no script. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And what we see is in a lot of scenarios like this, there might be a branching simulation, or there is a multiple choice way to sort of get to the end result, but that isn't like real life. And we found that in order to get the palms to sweat, in order to get people to get really excited or really flex those muscles, they need the opportunity to fail. And that opportunity really comes from having limitless opportunities to sort of go through a simulation. And the most powerful language processing technology is probably my smartphone right here. But it can handle a pizza. It can't handle one of the challenging conversations that you're about to see. And that's why we sort of love having the human in the loop, and why we're really excited to show you just what Mursion can do for learners. And so I'm going to sort of stop talking. I'm going to turn it back over to Anna to walk you through the demo, and we will, have more to talk about on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to be the person in the hot seat today and get the chance to share with you all what a simulation of a leadership situation would look like. And what first happens in the simulation, I'm going to go through this quickly, is there's going to be a host avatar, and their role is really to orient learners and make sure that they are prepared and ready to go into the simulation and situation, have all the background knowledge that they need, and then return for feedback and reflection at the end. Again, that's a very intentional part of our design. We want learners to be able to decompress and also reflect and get feedback, so we're not reinforcing those wrong behaviors. And then I'll be going through the simulation with Linda, the avatar who is going to be putting my leadership skills to work. We're only going to do a brief simulation. If you'd like to see the whole thing in its entirety, you can definitely follow up with us later, and we are more than happy to share. But I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and actually pull up the Immersion platform.
Hello, my name is Bennett. Can you see and hear me okay?
Yes. Hi, Bennett.
Hey, Anna. So I understand you're going to do a simulation today. We have a short period of time. If it's okay with you, I'll go ahead and share the slide. I'll read it out loud, see if you have any questions. Sound good?
Absolutely.
Great. So you're going to be talking to Linda Walker. She's one of your employees, and she's generally effective. She's smart, dedicated, and passionate about her work. Recently, she's responded with hostility towards some team members. You've witnessed it in several team meetings. You also just heard that Linda frequently loses her patience with her colleague Lee when trying to solve problems quickly. The desired outcome is understand the situation and get Linda's agreement on a plan moving forward. You can use strategies like actively listen to her concerns, ask open-ended questions to learn more about the situation, check that Linda understands how her behavior affects other team members, and motivate her to take concrete steps to improve interactions with her peers. Do you have any questions about that?
No, I don't at this time.
Okay, great. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to get you to your meeting with Linda. You can say pause at any time. I'll return, see if you need assistance or would like to go to the reflection or go back to the rest of the webinar. I also might pop in just if time is passing and it's time to move on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bennett.
Thanks, Anna.
Hey, Anna, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you, Linda?
I'm okay. Boy, am I glad it's Thursday. What a long week this has been.
Yeah, absolutely. How are some of your projects going?
Well, in general, they're going pretty good. Although I did have a communication breakdown with Lee this week. He and I are working on this really high stakes project together. He dropped the ball. I had to pick it up to make us look good. And then I had to give him some direct feedback about that. Super frustrating.
That is frustrating. Well, I hope everything was resolved with the client, but do you think that the communication breakdown has been resolved?
Well, and I got to be honest, I don't know. This has been going on for a couple of months now. I'm very direct. Lee is very indirect, and he won't respond to me unless I'm smiling and making a lot of small talk and being super pleasant. That feels unfair to me. I don't see him asking any of the guys on the team, to communicate that way.
Yeah, I can imagine that also being frustrating. To back up a little bit, can we go into the feedback you specifically gave your colleague? Was this today or earlier this week?
It was yesterday.
Okay.
What happened was the client needed something done Monday afternoon. It fit the work that Lee was doing. I didn't want to duplicate it. So I reached out to Lee, called, texted, emailed. He never got back in touch with me. Tuesday morning, I ended up doing the work myself. Yesterday morning, we had our team meeting and I walked over to him to just check in about what had happened. He was totally not responsive. And he's telling everybody how great it's going, how happy the client is, and pretty much taking credit for it. So the specific feedback that I gave him was that I had been trying to reach him. He never got back in touch with me, that was incredibly unprofessional and not to do it again.
Right. And was he the only person in the room when you gave him that feedback?
No, there was a few other people there. It was the end of the meeting.
And how do you think, how did Lee respond to that?
Well, it felt good to give the feedback in the moment like that, Anna, but he's not talking to me right now.
Yeah, Linda, I think that, I know that the situation was definitely frustrating and I can understand that. And I just want to, you to know that I recognize your hard work and appreciate you, still making sure that the client is happy and satisfied with everything. But I do want to make sure that, interactions that are happening with, our peers in the workplace are, you know, we have to think of sometimes each other as internal clients. And I'm wondering if there's a way that if you had the chance to talk to Lee again, or if you had the chance to have that conversation, is there something you would have done differently?
I guess, Anna. I mean, I think that he and I are at a place where things have kind of broken down and we may need some outside help. I mean, Lee is great. He's doing a great job, but communicating with him evidently is outside my skill set. And I think that he really struggles communicating with me as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to know that he is also doing a great job. But it sounds like there are some areas of improving communication. And, I think that when these situations happen where, things are getting tense and the pressure is really high, we need to, take a step back and think about, how we address those situations. I know they're hard to do in the moment. But I'd be more than happy to, you can come to me and tell me if something has happened or if you're having trouble with something rather than letting it escalate to the point that it did. It sounds like things got pretty heated, and I'd be more than happy to also have a conversation with you and Lee to hopefully sort this out.
Okay. Well, that sounds good, Anna. Thanks for talking to me today.
Yeah, let's take a pause.
Thank you for trying out the simulator, Anna. So let me ask you a couple reflection questions, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Great. So my first question for you is, in your meeting with Linda, what's something you did that you thought went well?
I think, I was trying to uncover the, situation that had happened by asking questions, and I didn't want to not pouncing into judgment and assumptions and trying to give feedback right away, but try and really listen from her perspective.
Yeah, you listened to her really well. You asked questions. You also kept her to the subject of the meeting. She could have sent you down a couple rabbit holes, but then you kept asking her questions until by the end, she's acknowledged she doesn't have the skill set to communicate with Lee, that she does want to be better at that. And I think you've put her in a really good spot for whatever those next steps are going to be.
Thank you.
Great. And if you were going to do it again, what's something you might do differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think that your feedback on that, I kept the situation focused on the instance that happened earlier in the week, but there's definitely opportunity for further conversation about how she feels that her overall interactions with Lee have been over time. I was trying to keep it really focused into that specific instance, but thinking about how would I have the conversation around the like longer term relationship or working relationship that Lee and Linda have been having.
Yeah, and you also said that comment about an in-house client. There's definitely a way that Linda approaches clients differently if they're external or internal. So that could be something to build on. And also making sure that she realizes the impact it's having on the team. You did surface that by asking if there were other people around. But those all sound great, Anna. So thank you so much for participating. I'll get you back to the rest of the webinar.
Great, thank you. All right. So we wanted to give everybody a sense of, what a leadership situation can look like. And I want to also bring this example into more of a real life practice with one of our partners and clients. And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again. And I hope everyone enjoyed seeing that interaction. It was definitely more brief. Typically, our simulation experiences can go from about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the level of reflection and feedback. And obviously, there was a ton of more objectives that I didn't get to hit in that simulation. So just so you have a sense, it definitely is, that was an abbreviated version just for everyone to get a sense of. And anyone is welcome to see a full-fledged scenario or simulation if you request a demo on our website. And to put this into a more concrete context around one of our clients, T-Mobile, who we've been working with for quite some time. It's no secret that they are merging with Sprint, and being able to empower leaders with the confidence to have some of these change management conversations was very, very important to the organization, and wanted to give them individual practice that they could schedule on their own for 30 minutes and get that personal feedback. Our simulations can also be recorded and are sent directly to the learner, so they can also review their own performance and even send that to a manager or another trainer or coach to get further feedback. And what we found that in one of these studies is that 90% have showed competency in change management scenarios. And this is after, again, it's not just a one and done. Immersion is about, repeating this practice, and you don't just get it once. You need to do it by applying it multiple times, and showed by the end of that spaced learning was able to show competency in these change management scenarios, and overall felt and reported feeling more confident to apply them and have these conversations with their own direct reports. We've also expanded to some sales and diversity, equity, inclusion programs. We had a talk yesterday with Kimberly Chapman from T-Mobile on how we've built scenarios for building trust, belonging, and inclusion, specifically around microaggression situations. And we have that recording as well available if anyone wants to learn more about that. And I don't want to, there's applications for simulations that go well beyond just leadership and diversity, equity, inclusion. However, that's a lot of what we do at Mursion. We've seen a lot of fast gains using these types of technologies in onboarding programs. And I want to also point your attention to a financial services company, H&R Block, where they had done a controlled study in the last tax season of comparing agents who are onboarded before a pretty heavy tax season. This is largely a base of seasonal employees that go through 3 immersion simulations during their onboarding in about like a 10-day sprint. So they have a lot of back-to-back simulations. And with those agents that did not have simulation in the training and just went through the traditional methods, we tried to keep this as a controlled study as much as possible. So the same instructor, the other elements of the training were exactly the same. And in the initial study, we saw an immediate decrease in the number of dissatisfied customers and other immediate business impact on the agent's scorecards within the first 2 weeks of them on the job. When we extend, and this is issue resolution, customer effort score, also as well as those hard numbers like talk time and hold time that are the most classic ROI and impact reporting from call centers. So even though that it's a call center environment and these are frontline people, they still wanted avatars as part of the training. They still saw a lot of value out of the nonverbal communication. And because it can help also, not only you can, in some ways you can hear that nonverbal communication over the phone, and they wanted in a training context for them to be able to see those nonverbals. And there's also some intercultural components here because not all of the call centers are here in the US, but they are for the most part calling or receiving phone calls from customers that are in the United States. Another interesting thing, I think, between T-Mobile and the H&R Block case study is H&R Block used a workshops approach where T-Mobile, like I said earlier, had that individual schedule on your own private practice where learners were grouped together in groups of 4, and each one of them got to go through and participate in a unique scenario, while their colleagues got to participate and observe and give feedback in between. And so it was a really enriching experience, and even a social experience, a social learning component to that training, and added a lot more value to the learning outcomes and the way that these colleagues were able to help and support each other. And that is a little bit about Immersion. And I know we only are at a few minutes left, and wanted to see if there's any outstanding questions, or if Paul, if there's something that I said that I had or didn't say that I forgot, please.
No, I think you got it all.
Great. Any questions or thoughts or comments?
I'm trying to jump in, Anna and Paul. So let me pull up. I do have a couple of questions here, and this one makes total sense. What is the purpose of using avatars as opposed to using real role play?
Yeah, that is definitely a fantastic question. And I had mentioned earlier, the Bailenson superhero study, and he also did some studies around the meta-analysis of, of using avatars versus real people or just doing a video role play. And we found that those studies had found that people generally felt more comfortable and more trusting of talking to avatars in these training contexts. There's something that around talking to an avatar, it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but people are able to kind of buy into it more and feel a little bit more liberated to take risks and try new things, take it a little bit more seriously, because there's this anonymity, there's this safeness to it. And it actually helps with that plausibility and that situational plausibility and that suspension of disbelief, and really feeling like this is real and I can feel this. Another reason too is there's a scalability component too. Finding the right person that fits the right description and has to have the talent to deliver and embody that performance and character is really hard to scale. And with Immersion, I think I had shown earlier a situation with multiple avatars. You can have that one simulation specialist who's driving the host experience. He or she could be Hugo, which is one of the avatars here, or I think it's Hazel is the other avatar's name. They're all named. And so it has both of that, learning science feel to it, and it also is a scalability benefit as well.
Yeah. And we do a lot of work. I mean, outside of corporate, we do a lot of work around education. And if you're going to watch, 5 adults pretend to be kindergartners, it just doesn't provide the same kind of training experience that, if you're actually looking at kids act like kids. So.
Yeah.
Interesting visual for sure. We have time for at least one more. What are the backgrounds of the sim specialists?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mursion simulation specialists classically have come from a largely performance background, high improvisation, and the skill sets that we found in these people are very, very unique and specific, where they're really, they have a very keen eye in ways that, even I don't quite see. And I'd say also high emotional intelligence. They're some of the most, you can't have that job without empathy and emotional intelligence, I find. But, largely we find the people with the right skill sets and talents and certify and train them in the scenarios that they face. So we have, a lot of diversity, equity, inclusion workshops and training, and the scenarios that go with those, as well as for leadership, and go through courses of learning, the GROW model or the SCARF model or whatever, Radical Candor. That's another partnership that we have, so they can learn and be certified in those approaches.
Perfect. I think we're at time, but I do want to encourage everyone in the audience that if you have any more questions that pop into your heads, again, keep submitting them in the chat. We'll make sure that those get to you, Anna and Paul. And also you can direct message our speakers as well by going to the lounge, finding our speakers, click the button to connect, and they'll be able to connect directly with you guys. So thank you both so much. And right now we're going to get ready for our next keynote presentation. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Thank you.